back, everyone, to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. Kevin Horde here.
Lorenzo Fon here. And also...
Peter, that's your cue.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to introduce me.
No, we're going to let you
Oh, my
handle
gosh.
it,
Okay, sorry.
We're lazy. We're super lazy. That's why.
Okay. Do you want to redo that?
No, go for it.
This is Peter
Introduce
from
yourself.
Rebels Podcast doing a professional introduction because I am a professional podcaster. What's up?
That's all right. We
I
kind
know
of
this is all staying in. This is all staying in now.
hung you out to dry on that one, didn't we?
It's all right. I don't care.
Half the
So-
times, Kevin and I don't actually know how we're going to start the show either. I have thrown wrenches in things where I've said Kevin's name, and sometimes I don't. And
Yeah, there was one week that Lorenzo just introed me and outroed me at the end, and I'm like, okay, I guess I don't even need to know what my name is for this thing, so
yeah.
we'll roll with it.
No worries. I'm not stressing. I got some herbal tea. I'm just chilling.
very nice.
Cool as a cucumber.
Nice. So what's going on in the world of Rebels?
We're gearing up season 3, so we are Rebels Review podcast, but we use that kind of as a springboard to talk about whatever we want in Star Wars. So we do deep dives on random topics, things like that. We'll do bonuses for the movies and stuff like that. But we are recording season 3 right now, which I'm excited about, and we just launched during the hiatus. It is so nerdy, and I'm so excited. We are recording a D&D campaign. It's a homebrew
Nice.
D&D campaign that's all Star Wars based.
Nice.
I play a disgraced Padawan named Bruce Randau because I thought Bruce was a funny name for a Jedi. And if you're familiar with Crystal Beth, she is part of our party, along with my co-host Mike, and then newcomer to the scene, Chris Sanchez. So it's really
Right on.
fun. Yeah, we have 2 episodes out right now. We're going to record our 3rd soon. And even if you're not into D&D, it's just fun storytelling and us being goofy.
I haven't had a chance to listen to those first 2 episodes yet, but it's on my queue, and I'm excited to hear it. So.
Nice, yeah.
Well, right on. You want to hop into this one, Lorenzo? We got this week Ghost of Mortis. So this is Season 3, Episode 13. Nope, Season 3, Episode 17. Release
Yes.
date was February 11th, 2011. The production code is 313, so I was half right.
Right, yeah. See where you got confused there for sure.
Right, I'm just reading the wrong line in my notes here, but for sure this is the 65th episode of the Clone Wars that we're covering. So we are, but that pushes us past the halfway point of stuff that's out, but not
Right.
halfway for what will be, if that makes sense.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We'll get 12 extra episodes sometime later this year, maybe?
Potentially.
Yeah,
Sometime after
sort of
Disney
talked about
Plus
that.
airs.
I think did they announce that it was a launch series with Disney Plus? I thought it was coming out in November, which I am stoked about.
I never officially heard that it was launching with Disney Plus myself.
Okay.
I've only heard that apply to Mandalorian.
Okay.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, TBD on that one.
Right.
But,
Well, 12. 12 is the number. We got 12
Still
extra
stoked.
episodes. Yes.
and that's November
12th.
12th. That's when
Mhm.
Disney Plus drops. Cool. For $6.99 a month or $60 a year. I'm gonna have to call them
Awesome.
up and get them to sponsor this episode.
Yeah.
See how that goes.
Well, speaking of which, I didn't realize that they took Clone Wars off Netflix, and I was really bummed about that. I had to
Oh,
find
right.
a janky stream where there were like Russian subtitles or something like that.
Oh, did you?
That is a story, apocryphal tale. So I really bought it from iTunes and paid American money
Right.
for it. But theoretically,
Well-
if I didn't want to do that, then I found a janky stream that's in with Russian subtitles.
Don't worry. We'll have a conversation as soon as this recording stops. We will discuss the horrors of post-Netflix world without
Yeah.
Clone Wars on it.
Well, Rebels has never been on Clone Wars, so that's always been a struggle for us, for our audience, and
Right.
for getting guests. We need to get a little creative with that, but we try to hopefully keep it fun. So even if you can't watch the episodes, you still get something out of it. Hopefully,
pulled along. Right, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It is on Disney now, and I just realized that probably isn't something that everybody has.
But also not every episode, though, right? I think it's just like the last season.
For a while, for Rebels, I knew every season was on there. I don't know if they changed that recently with the impending Disney Plus launch.
Yeah.
But yeah, you need a cable subscription for Disney now, which is, or I think you can. They probably have an offering like HBO where you can pay like a fee for just Disney Channel, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm an adult. I don't know these things.
Who thought we would live in an age where digital media was taken away from us on the whims of
Right.
somebody in their high tower?
I will say, like, one final tangent. This is still why I don't like buying movies via iTunes or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's still a fear of mine because you're technically buying a license to rent it from iTunes for life.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like the idea that there's a Blu-ray in my physical collection that, you know, at worst somebody throws a rock through the window of my apartment and steals, right?
Yeah, well, say that to my VHS collection.
I have the same thing. Peter. I got the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I feel more comfortable with the idea that I will one day have to upgrade it rather than, you know, like...
Yeah, fair.
Like Apple Music, same thing with Apple Music, where I'll try and find a song that I know I've been listening to, like a soundtrack or an album on Apple Music, and then like a couple months later I'll go, oh, I haven't listened to that while, and I'll go search it up, and it's just like, nope, this is not available anymore, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why? I was just listening to this. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, just on the whims of all these various digital partnerships happening. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, so back to
I was going to say, that being said, let's
Yes.
talk about this fortune cookie for Ghost of Mortis this week. It is, he who seeks to control fate or digital media shall never find peace. Who said it, Lorenzo?
I'm gonna go. There's two where this sounds likely to me, and the one is because of this episode. Like, before the episode, I would have said one thing, which is Yoda. After the episode, I'll kind of give it to Qui-Gon. It kind of makes sense there, too, to some degree. I really like Yoda, though, only because this totally sounds like something he would have potentially yelled at Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith at some point where we didn't see him, right?
Peter, you got any thoughts on this?
Just Dexter Jetster. So only find peace.
So I like your lip flap there.
Yeah. I kind of mixed it up with Boss Nass. I am not that great at impressions, but it doesn't stop me from trying. So.
Boss
That's
Nass
okay. We're
is
just gonna
actually
throw
the person
more
that
at you
I
later.
thought of first because of the whole like peace thing at the end of Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got nothing on this one. I'm good with going with Yoda.
Yeah,
You guys
Yoda's
are.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. So Yoda it is. Newsreel this week is basically just a recap of Overlords and Altar of Mortis. More Overlords than Altar, I would say. And it's kind of just Anakin and crew got into a sticky situation and they crashed and some shit's going down and now they need to figure out what to do.
Yeah, they can't get off the planet or wherever they're at, and they're stuck. They're just adrift on this planet, I guess. Are they adrift? How are stranded? Yeah, whatever.
They're I don't know. Adrift, maybe.
Whatever oceanic synonyms apply to space things here. So.
Very curious.
They're afloat amongst space.
There you go. So I'm thinking that this episode proper starts with their crashed ship, and Ahsoka is kind of doing some eval down in the basement. Comes out, gives Obi-Wan the bad news with some good news sprinkled in as he requests, and it's basically that the ship is fucked at this point, but she can fix it, kind of.
Right.
And they should
like
probably be able to get out of atmosphere.
Right. I like how Obi-Wan phrases it, where it's with tinges of optimism, if possible. Right? Is that what he says exactly?
Something to that effect.
But then essentially, the only bit of optimism she has is like, I think I'll be able to fix it. maybe.
Like, I should be able to do it, but maybe not.
Right.
We'll
like,
see.
We're really fucked. Like, that's broken, this is broken, that's broken, and we don't have pieces for that. But I'll see what I can do.
I like how she's wearing Hondo Onaka's goggles.
Yes.
Which is clearly just like an asset recycling. But
Oh, yeah.
I was down for it. I don't know where she got them. I don't know if she and Hondo have like a side gig or what's going on. They got a little side hustle, and she ended up with some of his shit. Couldn't tell you.
I will say, from a personal standpoint, like, you couldn't see her eyes through the lenses, and I couldn't tell if that was just like a stylistic choice or if they're just like that dirty. But as a former glasses wearer, it just gave me so much anxiety. Like,
this is not something I would have thought of. I've never had the pleasure of needing glasses.
I've always hated wearing glasses when they're just like fingerprinty or just like smudged or something. So then, like, that's your vision to the world, right? And everything's just blurry, not because you're not wearing glasses, but because there's just shit on your glasses, you know, and you're just trying to wipe them off with your shirt, but you're just making it worse. You know, this is why I don't like certain 3D glasses, you know. So I don't know, something about my flatter Asian face that doesn't go well with glasses. So just gonna throw it out that way. So
yeah, so I just came to a very fun conclusion. My random Russian stream had the wrong episode on it. So it was the episode before this. But I've seen this episode before. It's cool. I'm going to roll with it. I got you. I got Wikipedia up. I'm good.
You watched Altar of Mortis?
Yeah, you started talking about this, and I was like, wait, it doesn't start like that. It starts with Ahsoka getting kidnapped by the sun.
Oh, shit. All right.
Oh, damn Russians.
You want to roll with this?
Oh, yeah, I'm good. I've seen this episode a ton, so it's totally cool. I love Clone Wars. It's like I said, it's just really funny.
We'll talk offline. I'll throw something at you.
All right. I got you. Wink, wink.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
I think what you meant is you accidentally clicked the wrong link in iTunes when you purchased this one.
Oh yeah. That's what I meant. My weird Russian. I'm in Russia right now, so it's legal that I am downloading this with actual currency in iTunes.
Yeah, the iTunes and Amazon Prime, they just weren't matching up this time. So.
Exactly, yeah, it was a weird bug. I think Apple was down. I heard that on the news.
It's all good. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Ahsoka is not getting kidnapped. She is fixing a ship.
She is fixing the ship. We will take care of the details. You just take care of whatever extra commentary you want to throw in, and this will be good.
Yeah, no, totally, so, and that's fine because there are two things that I really like are Easter eggs and weird behind the scenes stuff, and like big thematic things. So that works out better. You take care of the details. I'll get nerdy about what Mortis means and the flow of the Force between living beings.
Perfect.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the flow of the Force between human beings, it's at this point that Anakin goes to see the Father because he feels like he needs his blessing to leave. Because he says, like, if I don't get his blessing, I'll regret it. But I pretty much feel like the end of the last episode, Peter, you might have some comments on this. Mm-hmm. He gets the blessing of the Father, right?
Yeah, well, the other weird thing, too, is regardless of which episode I watched, like, it's weird to see the about face where he's, like, so anti. Because remember, Obi-Wan's like, we got to talk to the Father. He'll help us bring down the sun. He'll know what to do. And he's like, no, I'm going to do it myself because I'm stubborn Anakin. And now he's, like, softened and he's all wise again.
Yeah, it's a odd turn of events, I suppose.
Yeah.
But so he goes to chase down the Father. Somehow he finds Father at the tomb of Daughter, and I guess Father is saying goodbye to Daughter, and
leaves the dagger with her too.
Leaves the dagger with her. Seals up the casket. Seals up the tomb. My comment on this is that there were these weird, like, step pyramids, but round, not square, and there's just like a whole bunch of them with these lights on top. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is something that what do we call the collective group of father, daughter, son? Is it the family?
This whole naming
Yes,
convention is very awkward, but yeah, I think the family's probably good.
It gets really tough when you're talking about this.
Yeah.
Because I will continually call son brother like nonstop, and Lorenzo will call me out on it every single time,
Yeah.
and I cannot help myself.
Totally.
And I'm like, there's only 3 characters. I know who you're talking about, but officially speaking, it's capital S son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't make those rules. I don't,
I just call him lowercase brother, man.
Yeah, that's
You know?
fine. Yeah.
So what-
Have you guys talked about any, like, so this is probably a good point because we're discussing the death of the daughter. Have you talked about the convor or any of that stuff and how it relates to Ahsoka?
We have not.
No.
Okay. That's something that I'm really into, and it's more of a Rebels thing, and I was reading up on this, and I thought it was kind of interesting. Do you know what the convor is? It's popped up a couple times in Clone Wars. It's like that owl creature. It looks like an owl with a weird long tail, like the episode where Ahsoka gets kidnapped and is like on that weird island where they're trying to hunt her. There's a bunch of convors in the tree. What's the lizard species? Oh my gosh, my brain is like completely fried. Like the bounty hunter lizard guy.
Bosk?
Yeah, Bosk. What's his species?
Trandoshan?
Yeah, it's a Trandoshan. Okay, so there's the episode where a bunch of Trandoshans steal Ahsoka and try to hunt her for sport. It's very dark, but there's a bunch of convors there. And so the weird thing is they're brown, and we've seen them a couple times, but in Rebels, spoiler alert for Rebels, when Ahsoka dies, and one time before she dies, we see a cream and green convor circling overhead, and it always appears with Ahsoka. So I think that's kind of interesting because, are both of you up on Rebels?
So it may be, this may be a good time to say that I'm not current on Rebels because I got to the second to last season, or the second to last episode of season 2, and you guys were like, "Hey, super spoilers next episode!"
Oh
like,
my gosh!
we're totally going to be talking about stuff at the end, and yeah, that's kind of where I cut off because I'm not current on.
Okay,
on
well,
Star
I
Wars
was
Rebels.
just about to tell you what happened at the end of season 2.
No, it's all good, man. You can spoiler what you
Okay,
like.
so spoilers for people who haven't seen all of Rebels and don't care about this.
Yeah, except for that.
But
Don't spoil
I won't spoil everything. But Ahsoka is in the series, and she seemingly dies in a confrontation with Vader. It's very, very cool, but there's some weird Dave Filoni trickery going on in there, and it's really cool and beautiful. And one of the things that happens is after she looks to die, you see it pans out, and for a split second, you see the convor, the green and cream one, and you also see the outline of Ahsoka walking into this weird pyramid thing. You can't exactly tell it's her, but she's walking and she's alive. And so there's some really weird Force mysticism stuff that happens in season 4, and it's really cool and interesting, and it ties in exactly with the ghost of Mortis and the family, quote unquote. So I won't spoil any of that stuff. But one thing that people are saying is that when the daughter died and imbued her life spirit into Ahsoka, it gave her kind of powers to maybe navigate death in a way that other people can't. So she's not fully a Force ghost. I'm trying to be vague. But the convor that follows her around is said to be, with this theory, it hasn't been confirmed, the spirit of the daughter following Ahsoka around throughout Rebels and throughout the rest of her life.
Did you say something about like a green aura? Would you say a green light?
It's like a green...
She's walking into a green light?
No, it's like a weird... It's like a... So she's battling in a Sith temple, and it kind of crumbles around her, but you see one of the entrances of this temple, like another corridor, it's just a dark thing, and you see the green convor, so this owl creature, follow her into that darkness. Which a lot of people thought at the time it just represented her passing into death. It's kind of like the river Styx kind of thing. You know, Dave's really into this like mythology and kind of ancient Greek stuff. So it's kind of a very like I don't know, spiritual thing of her soul going into the other plane.
Nice.
But he did say in an interview that the Convor, this specific one, the green and white one, is an avatar for someone or something that has appeared in Star Wars before. He also released these trading cards that shows like these sketches that he drew just for fun, and it shows Ahsoka walking into that temple with the Convor, and he said that that picture represents what it means to enter the underworld. And then another another card shows that Convor guiding Ahsoka through the afterlife. So it's kind of a really cool connection from this to Rebels and the continuing story of Ahsoka, where it seems to me at least, my interpretation is that the daughter imbued her spirit and is a guide into the afterlife for Ahsoka so that she can kind of direct the galaxy in a more spiritual way. It's some really cool, trippy stuff.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I am on board.
There's so many other weird, trippy things that happen in season 4, but I'm not even going to touch that. And
Right.
if you're a fan of the Mortis arc, you got to at least watch the last couple episodes of season 4 of Rebels. It's really cool.
I have seen, I think, the first half of season 4. Because did they do a mid-season break in season 4? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I think they did.
If they did, I saw up to that point,
Okay.
and I don't think I've seen past that, because I think by then Lorenzo and I were in beginning talks of this podcast, so I started focusing my viewing energy on other things.
Cool. Yeah, and the green and cream, I don't know if I mentioned this, obviously it's the exact same shade as the daughter, so that's one of the reasons why it's another pretty straight connection.
When you were talking about green and cream, that's why I had brought that question up, because the daughter definitely has that more cream colored with the like green bioluminescent aura emanating from her.
Yeah.
And the hair. Just going back. Yep.
Yeah, you should just, I'm going to look see if it's on Wikipedia, but just like type in green Convor and you'll kind of see it. Oh, its name is Morai. Moria. So don't read the description, but you can see a picture of, it'll probably spoil things, but you can see a picture. It's the exact same shade as the daughter, and you can kind of see what this little owl looks like. It's kind of cute.
Cool.
Yeah.
I don't think we've actually been introduced to the Convor quite yet.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
It looks like it is coming up soon.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember where in the series it popped up. So when that episode comes up, the weird, like, what's that, like, Korean movie where they put people on an island and have them hack each other to death?
Battle Royale?
Yep, it's like a weird Battle Royale episode with Ahsoka.
Interesting.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't know if you had seen it or not yet, so that's why I was like, yeah, that episode,
Yeah.
a bunch of Trandoshans, like, steal her and a bunch of other kids
Yeah.
and basically hunt them for sport. It's very odd, but you'll see the brown Convors in that episode for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, I'm a huge fan of Battle Royale. So
Oh, you'll like this. It's quite dark.
very good. Very, very good.
So we talked about the Force, we talked about Ahsoka and Force ghosts, and that she does not necessarily fit into that category, but we do get a Force ghost here, and that's Qui-Gon Jinn. In your guys' opinion, is this actually a Force ghost, or is this some more trickery by son, not brother? Or what do we have going on here? Because Qui-Gon appears to Anakin, and he basically says, hey, you know what you need to do? I believe in you. I believe you're the chosen one, and you have to do a thing to make the stuff happen for the chosen one prophecy to take place. And I think Anakin is basically like, I don't know if it's true. I don't know if I'm strong enough. I don't know if I can do it. And then Qui-Gon sends him to... He's kind of vague about it. He says there's a place on this planet that is strong on the dark side. Go there. You'll get your answers. Right? So is this Qui-Gon?
So the only thing that because I don't remember in the first episode of this series, does Qui-Gon, this is the second time Qui-Gon's popped up, or is this the first time?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
This is the
And in the
second
first time, does he say anything specifically about how he has his voice? Because he couldn't, canonically, he was never able to fully form as a ghost because he didn't fully unlock the secret. He just kind of partially cracked it until Yoda goes back and fully cracks it.
Right.
So I don't know if maybe there's something about Mortis that's giving him extra force power that's allowing him to do this, or if it is some trickery.
Good point. Because he does speak both times. And I will say the visual difference that happens between the first time we see him and this time is that the first time we see him, he does appear more like a traditional Force ghost, the Force ghost that we are familiar with. In this episode, he definitely seems more wispy, right? Like, it's not a very defined Force ghost like we normally have. He's kind of swirling in and out of clouds, right?
He's on a mountain and it's windy.
Right, but they're still just, he's more white.
Yeah.
He's more, his features aren't sharpened like a normal Force ghost, right?
Okay, so I just looked it up, and yeah, in the first time when he's talking to Obi-Wan Kenobi, he says that this planet acts as an amplifier so that he can manifest as his physical spirit. But have you read From a Certain Point of View?
Kevin has.
I have listened to it on YouTube.
Yeah, the audiobook is actually...
And it did not have Russian subtitles.
Nice. The audiobook is actually really good. I did it on the audiobook, but there's actually a really cool story of when Obi-Wan is kind of hiding away on Tatooine. Qui-Gon appears to him like in his home and just chats with him. And at that point, he doesn't have the full power of Mortis, so he can't appear as a ghost. He's just a voice.
Well, Isn't he essentially like talking to Obi-Wan in his head?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like Obi-Wan is meditating and trying to, open himself up to the Force, and then hears a voice, a disembodied voice.
Yep.
And it's not real clear whether or not it is ambient or internal. And when I was listening to it, I got the impression that it was coming from within Obi-Wan, that it was definitely like the voice of Qui-Gon, but more like Qui-Gon speaking through Obi-Wan to him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really interesting reading. And they've also said Certain Point of View is like canon adjacent, so you can't trust everything in the book.
I was going to ask, is it canon? Is it as canon as like the novelizations of the films are?
No.
Is it?
No, it's as somebody who hasn't read it, the way I take it is that they are canon from a standpoint that the storytellers themselves exist.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It's like unreliable narrators. So
yes, exactly.
It's the person telling the story. It's canon that is how they see the events and how they are telling the story, how it actually happened. Because there's a chapter that's very explicit about Han shooting first, but it's from Greedo's point of view. So maybe Greedo would think that Han shot first because he thinks he's a good guy or something like that. The one thing that I refuse to say is not canon, this is 100% canon, is Tarkin had a gay lover. That's in the book, and it's an amazing story, and I love it so much. Yeah, TK421, the stormtrooper who bumps his head. He has a relationship with Tarkin, and it's a very fun story.
Yeah, it's odd.
Yeah.
They deliver sexting messages through the mouse droid that was scared by Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I love that story so much. The best,
and it definitely gets into the nitty gritty and beyond.
Yeah. So that's a fun story. But back to the Qui-Gon thing, I do think canonically, and I feel like later in the series when he goes and talks to Yoda about how to unlock this secret, he confirms it, that he was never able to complete the training and go through the trials of the Wellspring of Life. So Qui-Gon can appear to people in certain times as a voice, probably when you're meditating. For example, I think that's when Yoda connected with him, when you're making like a good connection to the Force, but he couldn't manifest himself.
Right on. So he either needs the Force antenna of Mortis, or he needs the Force user to be stronger in the Force to be able to make that connection.
Yeah, totally. And this
Cool.
too, I mean, I don't know if I'm getting too wacky with all this stuff, but some interesting stuff that we've been researching. We did a big deep dive on the Force. It's like a 3-part thing. And it might not only be Mortis. There's evidence to show that there are multiple planets and places that have this kind of power of the Force.
Now, are they all remote like Mortis's?
Kind of, yeah.
Separate from space and time, if you will.
Yeah, so it gets really complicated, but
Okay.
if you look into it, they're basically 2 parts of the Force, and you've probably heard these terms, the living Force and the cosmic Force.
Right.
And so the living Force is like the energy between all living things, and that flows into the cosmic Force, which is the power that holds the galaxy together and communicates through the midichlorians. So like I like to think of it as like the cosmic Force is like the laws of physics almost. Like it bounds
Right.
the rules of the universe, and the living Force is just the energy between people and objects and stuff. But one of the things is there's a planet called the Wellspring of Life, which later in Clone Wars you will see. It's kind of another really cool arc, and that is where it is indicated the Force originates on this planet. And it kind of, if you think of it as like streams coming out and filling the universe, the theory is that these specific places are conduits for that. So they go from, so like Octo is one of, people think that is one of these places. So the Force connects from the Wellspring of Life to Octo and kind of spreads out from there as like different conduits. Yeah, and so like Obi-Wan says that Mortis is a conduit through which the entire Force of the universe flows. So we know that Mortis is one of those places. The other question is, where else is it? Like some people think Dagobah might be. That's why Yoda hid out there. I just think that's kind of like a weird, trippy, like science fiction-y. I love the Force mysticism stuff, so I'm really nerdy about that.
Yeah, I'm definitely digging it a lot. It's not something that is like front and present in the films,
Yeah.
and to have like this different side that Dave Filoni explores is pretty awesome in my book.
Right.
So, and all of that is pretty much more interesting than what we have going on in our current episode, which is Ahsoka sleeping. Obi-Wan wakes her up, and then he gives her coffee or whatever, and then I swore that what he said was disengage the firing drives, and she says, I was about done putting this bucket of bolts back together, and he's like, just trust me, and she's like, okay, whatever. And the reason I bring that up is because, I don't know, 5 minutes from now in the episode, Obi-Wan calls her and he's like, hey, make sure the ship doesn't work, and they have like a repeat of the same conversation.
No, what he says is he suggests another like workaround to fix something.
Okay.
Right. So she's like, well, I have to focus on getting this thing together. And he goes, no, just focus on whatever, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Okay. Yeah. Because the way that I understood it is he was like, disable the ship. And she's like, but I'm fixing it. And he's like, dude, just trust me.
That's the later conversation.
It totally is the later conversation. That's why I brought it up. Because
But in this one, no, she's definitely just saying that she's busy with Project A, but he wants her to skip ahead to Project B.
Okay.
Right.
That makes way more sense, because otherwise I thought they were repeating themselves. He goes to leave. He talks to the father. The father tells him where Anakin went, and it's to the well of the dark side. We cut over to Anakin. Anakin is like driving his little, I don't know, rascal down into a volcano. Lands at a rock on the bottom. Son is there. They have a conversation. Son shows him the future at this point, which Anakin tries to resist by like pulling the whole not Temple of Doom, Raiders of the Lost Ark thing, like keep your eyes closed and you won't see it, right?
Yeah.
But I guess he does anyway. I guess it's just like Force imbued into his brain. So we do get some flashes of what the future is that he sees, and it's Palpatine Force lightning somebody, and Obi-Wan says the "You are my brother, Anakin" line, and there's some Force choking with Padme, but not pregnant Padme, and then there's like a whole bunch of people that are Force choked, kind of floating in the background. Alderaan explodes, and then we get the image of Darth Vader's helmet in the smoke above him, as he's kind of chest turned upwards, arms raised to the sky, screaming in Force agony, I suppose, is what we could describe that as.
It's so sick.
It is pretty awesome.
Don't forget the younglings. We see a lot of younglings.
Oh yeah, there's one young calamarian that
Yep.
is implied to be chopped down.
Things don't seem well for him.
Yeah.
I like the idea of like a mini greatest hits that have to be re-recorded with showcast and trying to recreate those moments. For the most part, it goes really well, and there's a couple lines where you're like, yeah, like, you know, that's definitely a new actor just re-recording the line with a completely different tone, and that's fine, right?
Yeah. A weird thing is I've watched so much Rebels and Clone Wars. Like, I don't know if you're referring specifically to Palpatine, but I've gotten so used to Sam Witwer doing the voice of Palpatine that it doesn't seem natural when I hear Ian McDiarmid do it. So in the fourth season of Rebels, Palpatine shows up at one point, and they got Ian McDiarmid to do the voice. And it sounds like worse than when Sam Witwer does it. It's so weird.
I think, like, voice acting is its own talent, right? Like,
yeah.
It's one thing to be like, oh yeah, you already play this character, and then it's another to be pulled into a recording booth and be like, read these lines, but don't forget you're still, like, it happened with like Forces of Destiny where Daisy Ridley totally sounds fine, but her acting still just sounds off.
She just sounds like Daisy Ridley.
Yeah.
Well, it's
She
just
doesn't
like
sound like Rey.
the acting intonation just sounds like, hey there, BB-8, like, what's going on? We're stuck here on Jakku, right? Like, it's just off. Like, you're either overcompensating for the fact that you're only using your voice, or you just have no idea, and it's just, like, totally flat, and we're just gonna read these fucking lines, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's the Nick Cage factor. Like, you never know which Nick Cage you're gonna get, right? So
Yeah.
You're gonna get the awesome Nick Cage. That's who you're gonna get.
I just saw a headline, and I didn't read any of the context. It was just said, Nick Cage won't stop singing Purple Rain by Prince at local LA karaoke bars. And it just had a picture of him singing with one person in the bar. And I guess he just goes to these karaoke bars in his free times and sings Purple Rain and then takes off.
I'm gonna have to start hanging out.
This place.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I'm
weird.
gonna have to start hanging out at more karaoke bars. That's for damn sure.
Totally.
Let's go hang out in K-Town. It's all right.
Mm-hmm.
Little Tokyo. We'll
Yeah.
see. I'll find him.
I actually have a note about this scene because I did research this part. Did you already talk about the two Sith Lords that were originally going to show up in this arc?
We haven't talked about them, but I know who you're talking about.
I thought this was
Kevin?
really cool.
Go ahead.
You know?
Yeah, do you know?
So, yeah.
It's Darth Revan and Bane, right?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, and the mask that they put on Darth Bane, because Darth Bane shows up a little later in Clone Wars as well, and he looks pretty cool, like a crazy... He looks like Shredder from the Ninja Turtles, which is tight. But yeah, they completely modeled them and put them in. They directed it. They put the scenes in with them in it. Because George Lucas wanted two ancient Sith Lords to kind of be the influence behind the Son and kind of show up and kind of try to turn Anakin to the dark side at this point. And it was a really cool scene, everyone thought, but Dave Filoni axed it because he thought the implications of a Sith Lord being able to like separate themselves from the Force and interact with people, because it is kind of just a light side power to be able to do that. he didn't like those implications, so he kind of axed it, even though it would have been kind of cool. But he has a weird I saw them character models. It's kind of cool, but he has this weird gold. Darth Bane has this weird gold mask that looks like lacy. It's a little sexy. It's nice.
So I feel like that is like one of the renderings in one of the Darth Bane novels. Is like a more ornate covering.
Yeah. It was a cool idea. I'd never seen a mask like that before. I kind of wish that they would have followed through when he actually does appear on screen. And I don't.
It would have been cool.
Yeah, stop me if you want to, because I don't know what your podcast philosophy is. I've been bringing up a lot of stuff that's going to happen in Clone Wars.
Go for it,
okay.
man.
Yeah.
It's all
Okay.
good.
But yeah, when he shows up, it is a cool character model. Yeah, he looks like Shredder. He looks like a samurai.
Yeah.
But this weird lacy gold mask was a very cool touch.
So it's like Shredder, but with like a mask that Katana from Mortal Kombat wears. Like,
Well, the original model is, the Katana mask, but they changed it when he actually showed up on screen in Clone Wars to just a straight-up Shredder mask. It's like a straight-up ripoff. It's wild. Yeah. Revan looks exactly like he did in Old Republic, and so that was kind of cool to see that model.
nice. I'm not gonna lie though, like, I kind of do side with Filoni on this, with the implications that it would have basically fully implied of
Yeah.
the abilities of the Sith Lords, right?
Totally.
I think it'll depend on what happens in The Rise of Skywalker, and what we have going on with Emperor Palpatine there. So
I'm gonna call it
depending
one
on-
more time. That's a ruse. I'm just calling that shit right now.
Oh, I completely agree. Not only is that a ruse, I went on a big rant when we did our review of the trailer. The lightsaber is a ruse. They are screwing with us. Rey does not have that lightsaber. I promise you that.
All right,
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
that's a good. That's a good point. That's yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
That's not something difficult to change in post either.
No. So I think what they're trying to hide is that it's going to be either a different color, or she's going to build it out of the remnants of the exploded lightsaber. And so it'll be kind of messed up like Kylo's with like the distorted blade.
Ooh.
I think it's going to be one of those two things. I'm hoping she gets a white lightsaber, which would be so sick. It's Ahsoka has a white lightsaber, and so canonically there's this interesting thing where the way that Sith get their red lightsaber is they have to steal a kyber crystal from a Jedi and kill them, and then they corrupt the living crystal, causing it to kind of bleed. That's why all their lightsabers are red. So
I totally don't like this.
I think it's so
I've talked
cool.
about this before. I think it's a cool idea, but I don't think that. I don't know. You gotta. Just based on the fact that. So, why does Anakin not have a red lightsaber in Revenge of the Sith? Then is it because he didn't consciously make his blue crystal cry red yet?
Yeah, if you look at the comics, there's like a whole ceremony and stuff you have to do. So I think it's
Okay.
Yeah, I think he just hasn't gotten around to it. He's got younglings to slaughter.
Right.
He doesn't have
Right.
time to
Yeah,
change
things are
his color
happening.
yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are many things on the schedule and no time to lose.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. What Jedi did Ben Solo kill to make his lightsaber red?
So that's an interesting question because I don't know I think that's part of a tradition thing maybe, is like just traditionally that's what the Sith did. So I would assume that Ben just used his, because he had the blue lightsaber we saw in Last Jedi, he probably just corrupted his own crystal to turn it red. And I'm assuming that's what Vader did.
Okay.
Oh no, wait, no, Vader built a brand new lightsaber because Obi-Wan took that
He did.
lightsaber. So yeah, he stole his from a Jedi and corrupted it. But the other cool thing is, so Ahsoka in the novel, she basically loses her lightsabers and has parts to build new ones, but doesn't have crystals for them, and so she comes across this Inquisitor and fights this Inquisitor without a lightsaber and kicks this Inquisitor's ass, which is tight because Ahsoka's rad, and takes those red crystals and tries to turn them back to the light side, but she can't
Right,
fully
she
do
purifies
it.
them, right?
Yeah, she can't fully do it, so her blades are white, and it's such a cool look. It's the coolest lightsaber by far, in my opinion, and so I think that would be really cool if Rey did something like that. There is a red crystal in Luke's hut on Octo. So I don't know if this will happen. This is all speculation. What I wish would happen. Right. I think they are screwing with us. I think that's probably a fact. But I think it'd be cool if Rey went to the hut, got Luke's red crystal, and then turned it into a white crystal, and that represents like her being the balance between the light and the dark, kind of the gray Jedi theory.
I'm down for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's my crackpot theoritude.
It's all right, man. It's been a good month for theories across various nerd properties, shall we say.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but anyways.
There's a lot of shit going on around the time of this recording.
Yeah.
Right.
As far as Game of Thrones and Marvel and Avengers and other go.
Yes.
So,
yeah. So I'm not going to even start touching the other ones for now. We'll keep it strictly Star Wars.
Yeah. Can you believe that Hawkeye was Thanos the whole time?
I know, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Or that they shrunk Thanos but then shot him up Ant-Man's butt. Who knew that was going to happen?
Yeah, I know. That was a weird movie.
So when I saw that scene, I thought what happened is Ant-Man turned into Giant Man, and then Thanos climbed up his butt, and then Ant-Man shrunk back down to regular size, and then I guess like farted Thanos out, and then he was just like a little guy, and his hand didn't fit in the gauntlet anymore.
Then he went into like the Phantom butt zone is what happened. Like,
yeah. The quantum rectum.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Time works differently in there.
Right. In Ant-Man's butt. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where are we in this episode now? So
in this episode, we are we just saw Vader, so we're at the section where Son is trying to get Anakin to join him. I'll just kind of breeze through the rest of this stuff, and we can round it out and talk a little bit more in depth about it after the fact. But basically, Son gets Anakin to join him under the guise of destroying the Emperor and creating peace in the galaxy. Ahsoka does end up calling for help, which is kind of pointless because I don't think that goes anywhere. Obi-Wan goes to the volcano to confront Anakin. Anakin just like pushes his little bike into the lava and then takes off and leaves Obi-Wan there. This is when Obi-Wan calls Ahsoka and says, "Hey, disable the ship." She's like, "No, I just fixed it." We had that conversation already, so that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So she takes out like the key or
something,
the ignition coil or something. Doesn't really matter. She says that it is going to do the trick, disable the ship. She goes to get Obi-Wan. Then the two of them meet up with Father.
Real quick, how did Obi-Wan and Ahsoka know where to go? Did the well of the dark side get brought up with them? And even if so, like if I told you to go...
They could sense the dark side.
I thought the father told Obi-Wan that Anakin was going
The father
there.
did tell Obi-Wan, and then presumably off-screen Obi-Wan told Ahsoka where he was at.
Yeah.
Okay. But all the same, like if I just told you to go like to a certain Thai restaurant, and that's it. That's all I told you.
I mean, if you're in St. Charles, where I'm from, there's only one option.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
There's only one Well of the Dark Side restaurant.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. It just seemed very convenient that Ahsoka just like it's like, all right, here I am. Your lift ride is here. Hop on. We're getting out of here.
You skip past the pond of the dark side and the fountain of the dark side, and you go straight to the well.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I got.
That's all I need to know.
Also, the Force.
Yes.
Also, the Force.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's all. When all else fails, the Force.
Peter.
Force connects them.
That's not how the Force works.
That's how it works for me. I like the concept of this well. I don't know how much you've talked about it, but that's one of the things that goes to the theory that I was talking about these places being conduits. Because, Qui-Gon says this is a conduit of the Force. So you think about other places we visit that have these very specific dark places, like Dagobah has the dark tree. Octo has like that well.
The well.
Yeah, a very literal well of the dark side. Also in Octo, there's like murals. If you saw like it looks kind of like a, was a yin yang symbol that's made out of tile, and that that represents balance between the light and the dark. And you see that in the father's room. He has a very similar kind of mural that's the exact same style. It's a different design, but it's the exact same style with the tiles. So that lends
in the first episode of this Mortis arc, when Father puts Anakin to the test to see if he is the chosen one, to see if he can control son and daughter. They're on this platform, and son and daughter are on opposite sides of a black and white.
Oh, that might be the exact same
type
one.
platform.
Because
Right.
I saw the one in his tower too. I forgot about that one. So yeah.
I'm guessing it's probably the same symbol design.
Yeah. I think there's something in one of the books too. I wrote a note about it where it says, like, Mortis is Octo is imbued with the Force like Mortis and Dagobah in one of the guidebooks as well. So I think that's kind of just a cool concept to think about that too, that, you know, maybe those planets are a little bit more than we think they are. They might be Mortis type places, and that's why Yoda was able to go there and kind of build up his power and maybe train Luke so quickly, and that's what attracted Luke to Octo, maybe.
It would be super fun to see this stuff explored more in live action after episode 9.
Yep.
Right.
I don't really know where we're going, or even I think like one of the 2 trilogies
Right.
that are already in the works. Like Rian Johnson would be a great guy to helm something like this.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think he's really interested in that stuff just based on what he touched on in Last Jedi, and
Right.
I think there's some really cool opportunity to get trippy with some of these live action movies. I think Benioff and Weiss are just going to do Old Republic, which will be sick as hell too. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And then
For
more
sure.
theories will fly around.
Yep.
So many theories.
mm-hmm.
And I will just call them all a ruse. All of it.
Yep.
Damn it, Lorenzo.
But
Have some faith in something, man.
nope.
No, I like it. I support it. Don't
Hey, after I saw-
trust the man.
After I saw Jyn Erso in that fucking Imperial outfit and that never showed up anywhere, everything is a goddamn ruse.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the other thing, so talking about the lightsaber thing, one of the things that tipped my spidey senses is if you remember in the Infinity War trailer, they show the Hulk running on Wakanda in the battle. And they,
Yes.
in the movie, that's him in the Hulkbuster outfit. And they also did that in Ragnarok. They CGI'd Thor's missing eye, so he had 2 eyes. So Disney likes to mess with their trailers a little bit. So I won't trust anything that they put in there.
Have you seen Endgame?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, I'll just leave it at that. Let's move
All right.
We have the rest of what we have here is some Anakin and son conversations going on. The father ends up talking to Anakin and basically erasing his memory to ensure that later balance can happen, right? The son goes and takes the dagger from the tomb, takes the dagger from the daughter's tomb. Father and Anakin are at the monastery. Ahsoka and Obi-Wan arrive. Son shows up. Father begs him to stay and not to go out into the universe and fucking destroy everything. A really, really weak lightsaber fight happens that lasts all of like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And then the father steals the dagger and commits suicide with it to take away the powers of Son. And then as Son is mourning the loss of his father, Anakin stabs him in the back. And so then the family at this point is dead. Go ahead.
Which, small detail, I really like that Anakin was very non-specific with his stabbing action. So you see the lightsaber goes through both son and father.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kills both of them.
It's like, hey, you're already fucked, father. So,
Yeah.
I'm just not going to pay attention to how deep I'm stabbing this thing here now.
He's like, you already stabbed yourself.
Right.
Like one more little stabby stab's not going
Right.
to hurt you anymore, right? But Father affirms that Anakin is the chosen one and then gives him a little speech. This ends with "I'm dying. Beware of your heart," are his dying words. And then Mortis crumbles, and some bright lights happen, and our trio wake up in their spaceship out in space in their shuttle. They get a little communication from Rex, and there's a little joke about time and where they've been and how long they've been there.
They were up Ant-Man's butt.
Yes.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Because time works differently.
Yep.
Who
down
knew
there.
the entire Star
Up
Wars
there.
universe was inside of Ant-Man's butt?
Yeah.
Nice. I like that. See, this is a theory I can get behind.
Like, we all thought the Infinity Gauntlet would be the thing that connected the two universes. No, it was inside the entire time.
Yeah.
Quantum entanglement, man. I mean, funny things happen. You never can tell.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
But that's the end of this one. So, Iris in, cue loud music, and we can call this one Dunzo.
Yeah.
Right.
This concludes our Mortis trilogy, starting with Overlords and ending with Ghosts. Do you guys have overall thoughts on this 3-part arc before we
First,
branch off into
I have
anything else?
various questions. So first question is with Rex's comment and with the known experiences of our 3 heroes. Are they older?
By 3 days?
Right. I mean that makes a slight difference. Like it.
Does it matter?
Yeah, I mean yes, because think in Back to the Future, like Marty's like a week and a half older by the end of that movie, right? Like
Yeah.
he gets dropped back at the same place in time, but in actuality, he has aged an extra week, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, I am just curious about how this space-time works here, right?
Yes, they are 3 days older, and I say this because the father is super old, and I feel like he was not super old when he went to Mortis.
Okay.
The family came
interesting.
from somewhere else and went to Mortis.
Okay.
I think the time dilation is different, so he is probably, who knows how long he has been there? 1,000
Right.
years, 2,000 years, not really sure. So, yes, they are older, but they were only there, 3 or 4 days, maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that. So they're probably like 3 or 4 minutes older than they were.
Okay. Yeah, so like from Rex's
Then they should be?
Yeah, from Rex's viewpoint, like not
Yeah,
I get
it's-
what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
It's minuscule.
Right. Yeah, and I'm not saying it makes like a huge difference. I'm just still trying to just work out the physics of what happened per se, right?
Yeah.
I think even if they would have been there for like months, Obi-Wan's beard only would have been maybe 1/4 inch longer, half inch longer.
Okay. All right.
Oh my gosh, I
I'll
want
go
to
with
talk about this stuff so much, but I will restrain. There's so much of this stuff that leads into Rebels. Like,
Right,
it's so
yes.
cool
Oh, yeah.
how they lay the groundwork so early. And Dave Filoni was
Yes.
already thinking about these thoughts. I really love that.
Yeah. My other question is with the number one, what are Sun's powers in order to be able to show Anakin his own future? And then do you feel that it gets completely undone by Father just going, no, we're just gonna Men in Black, flashy thingy right in your face here, like that's out, we're done, like.
So I think the powers come from Mortis, not from Sun.
Okay.
And I think that Father is just, he says, I took back that, what doesn't he say? I took back that future, I took back that time. So
Yes.
maybe part of Mortis has to do with time as well, and not just the Force, but Father is able to, as Son was able to give him time or visions of the future, Father was able to take that away.
Okay.
Because as Father says, after he stabs himself, he says to Son, your powers come from the Force, but they flow through me.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever powers Son and daughter have, they come through Father.
Okay. But they're fed
So
by
whatever
the planet.
right, he is like the funnel of the Force, of the What'd you call them? Connective lines?
Oh, the cosmic force.
Yes,
Yeah.
the cosmic force.
Okay.
Yeah. See, I take the symbolism of that. I think that's really interesting to think about because I think, as the family unit, he's the conduit going between the father or going between the son and the daughter.
Right.
And so I like to think of that if we are going to think about this. Well, this part's confirmed. Take out Dagobah and Octo, but if this planet is a conduit for the living force, then, or the cosmic force, or both parts of the force, what does it mean that it kind of crumbled and went away? Does that did that basically, when the father killed himself, is that what happened to the planet and maybe this dam that was holding back some of the dark side throughout the universe? I'm wondering, like, how does this affect actions going forward and the dark side able to get a footing and maybe bringing real balance to the force? It might not even be a bad thing. Maybe in the eyes of the Jedi it's a bad thing, but one of the most interesting things that I like talking about is what does it mean to bring balance to the force? Mm-hmm. So, there wasn't balance when the Jedi were in order. There were a ton of light side users, not very many dark side users, and we saw how that basically screwed up the entire galaxy, right? So maybe the destruction of Mortis started letting some more dark side leak into the universe, which, made things like Vader happen and Sidious happen, things like that are bad, but in that long term, it balances it out more so, which maybe we'll see in Episode 9, an actual balance to the Force.
I agree with that sentiment. We got some thunder going on.
Oh, wow.
Is that what that was?
That was so loud. That's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So whoever creates thunder, I think, agrees with you as well.
Nice. That was very dramatic. Jeez, it's like 68 degrees in the Bay Area right now, and I feel like I'm going to die from weather. I don't know how you handle it. I'm such a baby.
Right. I'm originally from the Midwest,
nothing.
and I'm also a baby now.
Yeah.
I don't.
It was like 40 in Chicago, and Lorenzo's like, "It's so fucking cold here."
Yeah, and I knew that was not nearly as bad as it could get, but yeah, just that one day of snow, that Sunday of celebration, I was like, yeah, that's right. This is why I left.
I think I might die. Like,
Right.
I am such a baby.
It's fine. It wasn't that
Yeah.
bad.
I was
It
recently
all right.
in Baker City, Oregon. It got to 30 degrees, and, like, my body stopped functioning.
That's not the worst. It's okay.
Yeah.
You just need some warm soup.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
proud.
soup. Just a couple
And,
layers.
a nice hat.
Yeah, a sweater and a jacket. That holds everything in, basically.
Yeah,
So,
that's all you gotta do.
but what was the other question I had? The dagger. What the fuck was up with this dagger?
Do you got any info on this, Peter?
Nope.
I did look into this last week,
And there's like nothing on this dagger.
It's kind of like a bullshit description.
Right.
This dagger was made of the Force itself.
Yeah.
But it's physically manifested and it is imbued with the Force. We got all kinds of thunder going on over here. Sorry
That's
about that, guys. And that it says like whoever controls the dagger is able to control son and daughter, but then
But like,
the family is all just willy-nilly with it and just
right.
fucking leaves it laying around all the time. It just seems very irresponsible on their part.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why I was confused as to why father was leaving it with dead daughter anyways. Like, I was like, wait, is this dagger important or not? And if it is, then why are you burying it with her? Like,
So does he have visions of the future so he knows like what he has to do to get things to turn out the way that he wants them to in the
I
end?
don't think so, because I mean, he brought Anakin there to try and have him take his place, but epically failed at that task, right?
Yeah.
But he did find him, and he found out that he could, and then he says, I can't force you to. The choice is yours, I leave it up to you. And Anakin's like, nope, peace out,
Yeah.
man. I got other shit to do, so I'm out of here.
Maybe he needs to fail to succeed long term.
Right.
Yeah. I tried to do
Greatest
some
teacher failure is.
I tried to do research as well, and they didn't have any real information about it. To me, it's just a MacGuffin. It's just like, we need something to trigger this conflict. Yeah, Force dagger. Cool. All right, sounds good to me.
Yeah. But it's like, it's so weird because like at least usually MacGuffins will just kind of be there, right? But this one they keep like referring back to it. And they're like, oh, like the dagger. This is the dagger. Like, you know, and they like start to talk about the dagger, or like they have like a mini obstacle course to get the dagger. But then really it's just like Obi-Wan stepping on a rock and like reaching in a box, and he's like, oh, here it is. Here it goes, guys.
It's just a rock elevator. That's all it is.
Right.
Well, it's just like yada yada. Because even when they go to get it, it's like the daughter's like, I can't go past this point. Why?
Right.
Well, because the story says you can't go past this point. It's more dramatic
exactly.
that way.
She doesn't like lava, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't bode well with her floating hair. So.
Yeah. She floats, but she can't jump for some reason.
I feel like Father should have like put it back in the altar stone.
Right.
Yeah.
See, that's why I was confused too, but maybe he still can't cross whatever threshold was remaining there. I don't
know.
Couldn't he like throw
or
it?
force.
He uses
Yeah,
the
you
force.
can
He
force
uses the
lift it
force to
over.
like take it from.
Yeah. Well, the other
Son.
weird thing too is like, why would you bury your daughter with the weapon that murdered her? Like, if someone came and chopped my head off with an axe, are you gonna like put that in my coffin?
I was going to, but now I know that is not what you want.
This axe
so-
can't harm anyone else, son.
Yes.
Like,
This is on the record now. Please don't bury me with the weapon that will eventually murder me.
oh boy.
I have 3 notes from this episode. The Convor Moria.
Yep.
Wellspring of Life, the planet, and do not bury Peter with his murder weapon.
And I will be murdered. That's how I'm going to go out. I know that.
That's very sad.
Yeah.
I
I have lots of enemies.
jeez.
I don't
say
even
that
want to
one.
like make a joke about it because like in like 5 years like something ridiculous will happen and then it'll be like recorded evidence that Lorenzo completely threw out that like he was gonna drive off a cliff in a Volkswagen Beetle, red color, and Peter was very clear he did not want to be buried with a red Volkswagen Beetle.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to have that on record.
So yeah, nope. Moving forward.
All right, fair.
I got nothing. I got nothing. Lorenzo, more questions, or did we?
I think that
fulfill-
was kind of the major points. Yeah, that was. Also, just one, not question about the episode itself, but maybe just more outside peripheral sort of thing. So, how do you guys feel about such an explicit reference to most of the events of Revenge of the Sith, or events mostly from Revenge of the Sith plus Alderaan? Like, I know I've asked about like the powers, but in terms of just having the reference made themselves, like if you were just thinking about different audiences that could be watching this, or when, or like if you were a kid and this is your introduction to Star Wars, like
I think it's kind of bullet points of things that Anakin would regret in his future. If you can regret something that hasn't happened yet, these are the bullet points for Anakin of what he should regret later.
right.
And so, I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah,
I
I think it's interesting because I never really felt, even when I was a kid, I never felt the weight of Alderaan. I just heard like an interesting interview with George R.R. Martin talking about Game of Thrones, and they're like, everyone says I'm so bloodthirsty, but you know, they killed an entire planet on Star Wars and no one cares. I just make you feel the deaths. And I was like, you know, that's actually a really good point. Like, I think
completely
having this like kind of orb of just like some random planet blow up, you're like, oh yeah, that's sad, I guess. But I think they keep trying to push this as like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened in all of Star Wars. And I feel like you don't really feel any of that until you get into some of the EU stuff and you see how like that affects the people of Alderaan, and kind of as they pick up their lives going forward. Some of the Leia books are really good about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like, you know, I connect with other acts that Vader did as being much more evil than being implicit or complicit in blowing up a planet.
Yeah. I just personally felt from like both a story standpoint and from a viewership standpoint that this moment in particular to me just kind of felt hollow, right? Like, especially because Father undoes the knowledge of it anyways. Like, it's a weird, like, here you go, but we took it back sort of thing. So
would you have liked it to be, like, less explicit, more vague, and then Anakin actually remember these events? Or remember this Force vision?
It's more of like a sort of like, I just don't know what Anakin or the viewer gets out of this moment. Does that make sense?
You see Vader's helmet. That's what you get out of it.
Yeah, like cool. Yeah, like Vader's helmet, man. Like, right? So
it seems fan servicey. I think that's true.
And what Anakin gets out of this is a headache at first, and then Son is like, this is all your Emperor's fault that you foresaw, so let's join together and take him out, and we'll have the same speech that everybody else has. You join me, and we can defeat the Emperor and rule the galaxy, right?
Yeah. For
peace. So for Anakin, it's an excuse, I guess, or not an excuse, but the encouragement to do what's wrong right now for what's right later. Motivation, maybe.
Yeah.
But then when he forgets about it anyway, I mean, he eventually does have the same motivation.
I kind of like your idea, Kevin, about. I think I would have actually liked it better if it was a little bit less explicit, and he remembered it, and this kind of haunts him a little bit because, you know, I've always thought his turn to the dark side was a little quick, at least in the movies.
Right.
And so this at least would give you some EU backing of, like, you know, add that to the list of things that turns him to the dark side, you know.
It would also juxtapose nicely with, like, the Force vision he has of Padme dying, so it's like he sees, like, you know, if I go down this path, like, I will cause bad things, and then he's like, later he sees, like, these are bad things happening, I need to go down a path to correct those bad things. So in his mind, he should be avoiding, like, the path of causing bad by stopping bad, but really it's all the same thing, and by trying to stop something that he sees as bad in his future, he is actually causing the other things that are bad for everybody else that he also saw in his future. I would totally dig that.
Yeah, if that were the case, I would have really liked this arc maybe as a season 5, 6, or, you know, like before 6 got cut in half sort of thing. Like the second half of season 6, that would have maybe been the end of the show potentially, right?
Right.
As you said, Peter, like as a nice tie-in and lead into his anxiety and feelings that he's freaking out about in Revenge of the Sith, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I do like that idea. Whereas here, it's just like it lays that foundation and then immediately takes it away.
Totally. Yeah, it is a little odd.
So I just wanted to, because like I personally didn't really know how I felt about it either. I just didn't feel right with it in any case.
But I mean, Peter, you're right. In the end, it was to give us Darth Vader's helmet. That's what it was.
Totally.
Right? That's what it's there for.
Yeah. In smoke, like, ooh.
Right, like, hey, check this out. Here's Darth Vader's helmet. And then it's like,
what could that
Anakin
mean?
can't remember this. You got to forget about it. Boop.
Yeah,
No.
totally.
Yeah. That being said, thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you guys got?
Peter, I'll let you start. Yeah.
Peter,
I am
you're on the
going
hot
to
spot,
say
man.
thumbs up for sure. What was the term that it was?
Dave Rave?
Dave Rave. I am
Rave.
a Dave or Raver for anything Mortis. I love the Force mysticism stuff. I love the symbolism. I mean, there's some funky stuff story-wise, but I don't even care. Mm-hmm. I like my Star Wars weird. So I love this arc a lot. Cool. And I love all the other things it ties into. Which, that was my only other note, was I think they've been setting up for a long time kind of what it means to have true balance between the light and dark. And so you see there's the very obvious representation of, you know, the daughter being like this pure soul and the son being this dark, tormented person, and then the father being in between that. And so I am just wondering if there are going to be any parallels with Luke kind of representing the daughter role and Kylo Ren representing the son role. And then maybe Rey represents the father role at the end of all of this.
Nice.
I don't know. I know Filoni's in those rooms, and I know he likes this stuff, so I could see some of that popping in, especially with Octo and some of the symbolism we talked about in Last Jedi. So I'm so into all that stuff.
Right on, man.
Right.
Lorenzo?
Kevin? Yeah? I'm going to give this one a thumbs down, personally.
Wow.
And I like the other two. The only problem I have with this one is I agree with you. I like the implications that this arc and this story in this episode in particular have for the greater universe, for sure. It's just that this episode on its own just left me more confused and unsatisfied as a wrap-up to the whole arc, right? We got a lot of good setup in the last two episodes, but here it's like now suddenly Sun is just like this even more angsty dude, and there's the question of that MacGuffin of the dagger that gets like introduced and doesn't really do a thing. Then Anakin getting tortured and then untortured sort of thing.
Yeah. That's a good point, because like, what does this episode do that couldn't have been done at the end of last episode? Like, instead of the son killing the daughter and then flying away in angst, why couldn't this have all just happened in that room where he kills the daughter? The father's like, oh crap, this is going crazy. Now I have to stab myself to stop him. And then they kill him right there. Like, what actually happened that we needed to see between that?
I'm going to answer your question. I
still love it, though.
I'm going to answer your question with a question, but I want to give my rating first so that I don't talk myself out of it. I give this one a thumbs up. And I really like the stuff the father does in this episode, where in the end he does have to sacrifice himself for the greater good of the Force and to bring the Force into balance, and he does that to distract Son so that Anakin can do the final deed of killing Son to bring balance on Mortis, because now the family is non-existent completely. But when the father does so, Son is all upset because he's like, how could you do that? Does Son not know that when father dies, his power is taken away? Because he tried to murder him in the last episode twice.
Yeah, I have questions about that too. That's kind of what is everybody's powers? Like, I had questions about Son's powers, but then like, how did the Son? Yeah, that's a really good point. Because then, if Son was successful, then what the fuck would have happened?
I think what happens at that point is that it takes away their immortality. I think is what I read, is that the dagger killing father would remove son and daughter's immortality, and then potentially also release them from their link to Mortis, so it would be easier for the son to leave. But then at the end of the episode, like, the whole threat this episode is that Son is going to go steal their ship and just fly away anyway.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
but like, they keep saying that, but yeah, so like the reason for my rating too is like they kind of keep setting that up as like the main issue, and yet we're barely around that shit. Like, that doesn't, there's no clear sort of goal in this episode. Like, they keep talking about Son heading that way, but really I just don't feel like that's what's actually happening.
So what if that's the point? What if none of this actually happened?
Right.
What if this is all, that's why no time passed, the three of them just had like a weird like carbon
crazy
monoxide
fever
dream fueled by the Force, and none of this actually happened. It just symbolizes what's about to happen in the galaxy.
Do they ever talk about this stuff again, like amongst themselves?
Yeah, I think they do actually bring it up a couple times. I don't remember. Don't quote me on that. I mean, I do know that it does very specifically come back at the end of Clone Wars, and then also in Rebels, as I've mentioned.
Right.
So, I mean, I was being a little facetious about it. I think the point of the overall arc, like I do think it does exist, and these characters did exist, but the point of the overall arc is not necessarily like, what's the big bad gonna happen, and like we have to like be space cops and stop the sun. It's more of just like the symbolism of how the Force works in the universe.
Yeah. So yeah, like that's my thing. Like I'm totally down for the universe expansion that happens in this arc, this episode included.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that when it comes to the binary rating that we have, either you like the episode or you don't. Like I still judge this episode on its own merits, and like the story that is being progressed in this episode is where I'm just like, I mean, what the fuck just happened? What the hell did I just watch?
I can totally get that, because this one was pretty quick.
Yes,
I mean, you know, they're all 22 minutes plus or minus a little bit, right? But there wasn't a lot that happened. It was like some meetups of some people, convince Anakin to join Son. Father's like, nope, that's not going to happen. I'm going to erase your memory, and let's defeat Son.
Yeah. Because even to some degree, like, even Obi-Wan didn't feel truly like Obi-Wan at points of this episode, where he's, like, kind of scolding Ahsoka, but she's the only one really working on actually trying to get them out of there.
Yeah, Obi-Wan's getting drunk in the cockpit, and Ahsoka takes a little nap, and he's like, hey, wake up. Drink this. Make you feel better. I'm riding
Why
this.
aren't you fixing the ship? I wish I could sleep like you.
I'm riding this bicycle.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, like, he rides off and he's like, I guess I gotta go find Anakin because he got lost somewhere.
I think he thought the
About a
well
well.
of the dark side was like a bar.
Obi-Wan does seem to like to hang out in bars. I don't think people talk about that enough.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Like, what are you doing, Master? I'm gonna go get a drink.
For a drink. I'm pretty sure that's brought up in from a certain point of view, right?
Is it
Is Obi-Wan hanging out in
Obi-Wan
bars
is
a couple times?
a low-key alcoholic?
Yeah.
Do I remember that
It
incorrectly?
gets brought up in a couple of the comics too. Yeah, I remember in the few comics they keep kind of talking about how Obi-Wan's always hanging out in Mos Eisley and various establishments.
Okay, so last time that you were on with your co-host Mike was Dooku Captured, which was the direct follow-up to whatever episode was before that. I know that's a great description, right? But at the end of that episode, Anakin and Obi-Wan are drinking, and Obi-Wan is basically like, Anakin, what do you think you're doing? Like, you're driving, and he's like, I'm gonna be the one that gets a drink here, buddy.
Yeah. See, I'm holding my tongue. I won't disparage anything about Obi-Wan, because first of all, I love him, and second of all, I don't know if you saw by far the most famous tweet that I've ever made is I put a poll up where I asked at this point, who's your most iconic Obi-Wan? And I said Alec Guinness, Ewan McGregor, or Clone Wars. And I just did it
and
real
James
fast.
Arnold Taylor.
And James Arnold Taylor called me out, and it blew up more than anything I've ever done. It was so embarrassing. So I'm shell shocked about any nary a word about this Obi-Wan. He is a beautiful treasure, and I am not going to disparage him.
He is my guy, man.
Yeah.
James
He is
Arnold
great.
Taylor.
No, it was no disrespect. I was walking to a meeting when I had an idea for this poll, and I was 1 minute to the meeting, so I just threw it up on my phone real quick and didn't think about it. And then I looked at my phone an hour later and was like, "Oh my god, what happened?"
So funny, because I think I told Kevin. It's what's funny is I saw that on the Star Wars subreddit first before I realized that you posted it.
Yeah, that was crazy too.
Wait a second, Kevin,
Because I think I had responded to your tweet saying I definitely would have picked JT,
Yeah.
and then Lorenzo sent me something, and then you and I were talking back and forth, and by that time, James Arnold Taylor was already involved in this, and
Right.
Yeah,
It was good
got
times.
Scary.
Yes.
Yeah. I also misspelled Alec Guinness because of autocorrect on my phone. And so
Alex.
it's like Alex Guinness, and people just ripped me for that too.
The internet.
Yeah.
The wonderful place that is the internet.
Totally.
Oh.
Especially Star Wars internet.
Oh gosh, yes.
It was fun though. Most people were really fun about it. So I've had other things blow
yeah.
up that were less fun.
Did you
So-
say something nice about Last Jedi that just like
Yeah. Well,
flew back in
it's-
your face?
There was some very interesting stuff that happened in Rebels season 4 that I've kind of alluded to that people were kind of mad about, and so I made a tweet or something like that said, or it was on Reddit too, I think actually, and I said, next time you find yourself mad at the new canon for introducing quote silly things, remember that most people are generally okay with a werewolf that drinks at a space bar. So let's not take this too seriously with a picture
Right.
of the werewolf in the cantina. And then I instantly got 400 comments of people taking it way too seriously. And it got like really
Yep.
mean.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
nice.
So that was less fun.
So, speaking of Star Wars Internet and Twitter and Reddit and whatnot, where can people find you specifically in Rebels, and
And also, what else you got going on?
Yeah,
what do you got
we-
going on in your life?
We're trying to sell my house. If you want to buy a house in Oakland,
wow.
hit me up on Twitter. It's Rebels Pod. We are Rebels Pod on Instagram and Twitter. We don't really use Facebook. If you like this show, you would probably like our show because it's pretty much like this, but for Rebels. We also have our Dungeons and Dragons thing that I talked about earlier. It's really fun. Just us goofing around, not taking it too seriously, so you don't need to know the rules of D&D. We kind of give you the explainer, and you can roll with us. Also, I play music in a band called Sore Thumb. You can find us at sorethumband.com. It's kind of like 90s alternative, grungy, surf rock with a little bit of punk. I don't know, it's weird. But we are releasing our new album next month. We have a new song out already, and I think it's probably the best thing I've ever done. So I'm really proud of it.
Nice.
If you like rock and
Awesome.
roll, check that out. I'm really stoked.
Is that available digitally?
Yeah, we're
Are
on.
you guys actually pressing CDs?
Well,
cassette
speaking of
tapes?
VHSs, we did want something physical, but we couldn't afford vinyl, so we got cassettes. So we do have
Nice.
cassettes of our first album, but I have never heard it because I don't have a tape player. But yes, we are on. Yeah, we're on Spotify. We're on Google Play.
Nice.
We're on Bandcamp, and our new album will be on all those places as well.
Awesome.
I heard a stand-up comedian once who released his set on cassette, and he joked. He goes, "Hey, you know you have some poor friends with some old Toyotas that can listen to this."
Yeah, totally. It's funny because I went to thrift stores to try to find one. Like I couldn't find a single person who had a tape player out here.
I think I have 3.
Jeez, yeah. You'd think like I'm in the hipster capital of the world. You would think I could find a couple
Right.
tape players. I mean, I freaking shoot film still on camera, so
Oh gosh.
like it's not like we're anti-analog, but I couldn't track down a tape player. I've still never heard that record on.
It's probably because
on
all the
tape.
hipsters bought them up. That's
Probably,
exactly
you're
what
right.
happened.
Yeah, that's true.
You
That's
could probably
likely what happened.
find a ton of 8-track players.
Yeah.
Yeah. Buy that
definitely some
now before it
turntables.
gets back. Yeah, buy
Yeah.
that now. And then the hipsters will be like, you know what? I'm over cassettes. We're going back farther.
Totally. Yeah. So you know what? Buy our new album or our old album, and then we can afford to press vinyl because vinyl's tight.
What's the album title?
Our new album, it's called Sounds Good.
Sounds
Nice.
good, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very, very straightforward. Sounds Good by Sore Thumb.
Awesome.
Our last album was called An Album By. So we like the meta theme.
Clever.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yep.
All right, Kevin. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah. No, I was gonna ask you where people could find us online, but just to make that simple, go to notthenerds.com. All of our links are included at the bottom for all of our social media. It's got either a feed of our, it's either our podcast feed or our YouTube feed. depending on what version of the site is up right now. So, nothinnerds.com. Check that out. I didn't check what episode we got coming up next week, so I can't plug that one, but rest assured we will be back next Wednesday with whatever is coming after this Mortis arc. And unless you guys have anything else, we're going to close this one out. I've been Kevin.
Lorenzo here.
And I'm Peter. Thanks for having me. I have a lot of fun with you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's
we
awesome.
enjoy having you on here.
Yeah,
So.
sorry
sure.
for derailing so much.
No.
You are all good.
Yeah.
So until next time that Peter's on, and next time next week, whatever, these are the nerds you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.